The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast hall. Ambassador Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire walked slowly toward the center platform, his blue-scaled skin shimmering under the artificial lights. His forearms moved in nervous patterns as he carried a datapad containing information that would change everything. The council chamber was a sight to behold. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in circular tiers that rose toward the domed ceiling. The amphibious Aquarians floated in their water-filled pods, their gill slits fluttering with each breath. The crystalline shardfolk reflected light in rainbow patterns from their translucent bodies. The insectoid hive mind members sat perfectly still, their compound eyes fixed on the approaching ambassador. Vexstar reached the speaking platform and activated the holographic display system. Images of twisted metal and debris filled the air above the council members. The silence that followed was broken only by the gentle hum of life support systems and the occasional splash from the Aquarian pods. "Honored council members," Vexstar began, his voice carrying the weight of terrible news. "I bring reports of an unprovoked attack on human civilian vessels in the Outer Rim territories. The colony ship USS Liberty was destroyed 3 days ago. While traveling to the planet Haven's Rest, all 50,000 colonists are presumed dead." A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Aquarian representative, Chancellor Blueridge, raised one webbed hand to speak. "Who was responsible for this attack?" "Pirates? Rebels?" Vexstar's expression darkened. "The Krellian Empire, Chancellor. Their warships intercepted the Liberty during a routine hyperspace transit. The attack was swift and merciless. The human vessel had no military escort and no defensive capabilities. It was a ship full of families seeking a new home." The crystalline shardfolk representative, known as Clarity, spoke in chiming tones. "This is troubling news. The Krellians have been aggressive in recent years, but attacking civilian vessels crosses accepted boundaries of conduct." High Counselor Mordith, an elderly member of the long-lived Eternal Race, leaned forward in his chair. His ancient eyes had seen many conflicts across the galaxy. "The Krellians respect only strength. They view compassion as weakness and mercy as foolishness. This attack does not surprise me." Admiral Kethmer of the Vorthan Defense Fleet stood from his seat. His species was known for their military traditions, and his uniform displayed numerous medals from past campaigns. "The humans are a young species. They achieved faster-than-light travel only recently. Their military capabilities are limited at best. The Krellians likely saw them as easy targets." The insectoid hive mind representatives remained silent, their collective consciousness processing the information. They had encountered humans before during trade negotiations. The mammals seemed peaceful and diplomatic, preferring negotiation over conflict. "What response do you recommend?" asked KED Chancellor Blueridge. "The Galactic Council cannot allow such attacks to continue without consequence." Vexstar consulted his datapad. "The Zephyrian Empire suggests immediate economic sanctions against the Krellian worlds. We should also consider restricting their access to interstellar trade routes." Known as Clarity chimed in agreement. "The Shardfolk support diplomatic pressure. Perhaps we could arrange a tribunal to address this violation of interstellar law." Admiral Kethmer shook his head slowly. "Diplomatic protests will not deter the Krellians. They have ignored such measures before. However, military action against their empire would be costly and dangerous. Their fleet is one of the most powerful in the galaxy." High Counselor Mordith stroked his long beard thoughtfully. "The humans themselves have made no formal complaint to this council. Perhaps they are unaware of proper diplomatic channels. We should contact their representatives on Earth." The discussion continued for hours as council members debated various responses. Some suggested sending a formal protest to the Krellian High Command. Others proposed organizing a coalition of species to impose joint sanctions. The Aquarians wanted to offer humanitarian aid to any human survivors. Though none had been found, throughout the debate, one theme remained constant: Every species representative spoke about humans as if they were helpless children who needed protection. The humans were viewed as a peaceful but weak species, incapable of defending themselves against a military power like the Krellian Empire. The humans lacked the industrial capacity to build a proper war fleet, Admiral Kethmore explained to the Council. Their technology is generations behind established civilizations. Even if they wanted revenge, they simply do not possess the means to achieve it. Far from the council chambers, in the cold depths of space near Earth, a different conversation was taking place. Fleet Admiral Patricia Kane stood in the command center of Terran Defense Command, her weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. She had served in the human fleet for 30 years, rising through the ranks during humanity's expansion into space. The report from the USS Liberty had reached Earth through emergency channels. Kane had read every word, studied every image, and memorized every name of the 50,000 civilians who had died. Among them were children who would never see their new home, parents who would never watch their families grow, and dreamers who had sacrificed everything for a chance at a better life. "Admiral," came a voice from behind her. Commander Jake Morrison approached carrying a sealed data packet. He was younger than Kane, but had earned his position through skill and dedication. "The reconnaissance drones have confirmed the attack. Details: the Krellians used overwhelming firepower against an unarmed civilian vessel." Kane accepted the packet and activated its contents. Holographic displays showed the final moments of the USS Liberty. The colony ship had been trying to surrender when the Krellian warships opened fire. There had been no warning, no demand for compliance, just sudden and brutal destruction. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Morrison asked quietly. Kane was silent for a long moment, her eyes fixed on the tactical displays that showed the location of every human ship in the galaxy. Most were exploration vessels, cargo haulers, or small patrol craft. But hidden among them were other ships, vessels that the galaxy had never seen in action. "Contact the Vengeance," Kane said finally. "Tell them to prepare for immediate departure. Full combat loadout, maximum stealth protocols." Morrison nodded and turned to relay the orders. The USS Vengeance was humanity's most advanced warship, but very few people knew it existed. While the galaxy saw humans as peaceful explorers, Earth's military leaders had been quietly preparing for the day when diplomacy would fail. As Morrison left to carry out his orders, Kane activated a secure communication channel to Earth's government. The conversation that followed would authorize the first major military action in human history. The galaxy was about to learn that appearances could be deceiving, and that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. In the depths of space, the USS Vengeance began its journey toward Krellian territory. The ship was a kilometer long and bristled with weapon systems that no other species had ever seen. Its crew was trained, experienced, and ready to show the galaxy what happened when humans were pushed too far, the Galactic Council continued. Their debate, unaware that their careful diplomatic discussions were about to become irrelevant. The humans had already chosen their response, and it would be delivered not through words, but through actions that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The massive space station called Bloodstone Station hung in the darkness like a metallic spider. Its dark hull was covered with weapon ports and docking bays that could hold an entire fleet. This was the heart of Krellian military power in the sector, a fortress that had never been challenged in 300 years of existence. General Thrachter stood on the command deck of the station, his massive reptilian form towering over the control panels. His scales were dark green with scars from countless battles, and his yellow eyes burned with the cold intelligence of a predator. The general had built his reputation on crushing the weak and expanding Krellian territory through fear and violence. The massive viewscreen in front of him showed recordings from the recent attack on the human colony ship. Thrachter watched the footage for the third time, his thin lips curling into what passed for a smile among his species. The USS Liberty had been destroyed so easily that it barely qualified as target practice for his warriors. "The mammals squealed like frightened prey animals," said Captain Zorketh as he entered the command center. He was smaller than the general, but equally vicious, with fresh battle scars decorating his snout. Their distress calls went unanswered. For hours, no rescue ships, no military response, nothing. Thrachter turned to face his subordinate. Did any of them survive the attack? None, Zorkith replied with satisfaction. We made sure of that. The humans had no defensive systems, no escort ships, no way to fight back. It was like hunting helpless creatures in a cage, the general nodded approvingly. The Krellian military philosophy was simple and brutal. The strong survived by destroying the weak, and mercy was a luxury that led to defeat. For 3 centuries, this approach had made the Krellian Empire one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. Sir, called out Lieutenant Groktar from his position at the communications console, we are receiving intelligence reports about human fleet movements near their home system. Thrachter moved to the console with heavy footsteps. His massive claws clicked against the metal deck as he reviewed the incoming data. The reports showed increased activity around Earth, with several ships changing course toward the outer rim. Territories? Interesting, the general mused. Perhaps the humans are finally showing some backbone. How many ships are we talking about? The reports are unclear, sir, Groktar admitted. Our spies in the neutral zones have detected unusual energy signatures, but they cannot determine exact numbers or ship types. Captain Zorkith laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. Let them come. We have fought humans before in the border skirmishes near the Epsilon sector. Their weapons are primitive, their tactics are predictable, and their courage fails them when faced with real warriors. Thrachter remembered those encounters well. Human patrol ships had occasionally crossed into Krellian space, but they always retreated when confronted by superior firepower. The few times combat had occurred, the humans had been easily defeated. Their ships were smaller, their weapons weaker, and their commanders seemed reluctant to commit to serious battle. How many ships do we have available if the humans decide to seek revenge? Thrachter asked his tactical officer. 47 combat vessels, sir, came the immediate response, including the flagship Eternal Domination, 12 heavy cruisers, 24 destroyers, and 11 support ships. All are fully armed and ready for deployment. The general felt a surge of pride as he considered his fleet. Each ship was a masterpiece of Krellian engineering, designed for maximum destruction and intimidation. The hulls were painted black with red markings that struck fear into the hearts of enemies. The weapon systems included plasma cannons, ion torpedoes, and fusion bombs capable of cracking planets. Sir, interrupted another officer, we are also receiving reports from the Galactic Council. They are discussing diplomatic responses to our actions against the human colony ship. Thrachter snorted in disgust. The Council talks while we act. They will send strongly worded protests and impose meaningless sanctions. Meanwhile, we will continue to expand our territory and eliminate the weak. The command center buzzed with activity as officers monitored space traffic and coordinated patrol routes. The Krellian military machine operated with ruthless efficiency, always ready to strike at any target that showed weakness or valuable resources. General, said Captain Zorkith, should we prepare additional defenses in case the humans actually attempt some form of retaliation? Thrachter considered the question seriously. The humans had shown no significant military capability in previous encounters, but it was always wise to be prepared. Double the patrol routes around our border systems. If human ships are detected, I want to know immediately. Yes, sir, Zorkith replied. Should we also contact our allies in the Savage Claws pirate organization? They have been useful in previous conflicts. Not yet, the general decided. We should be able to handle any human response with our regular forces. If they prove more troublesome than expected, we can always call for additional support. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the USS Vengeance continued its journey toward Krellian territory. The massive human battleship moved through hyperspace. With deadly purpose, its hull gleaming silver under the light of distant stars. The ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, incorporating technology that defied conventional understanding on the bridge of the Vengeance. Commander Jake Morrison studied tactical displays showing the layout of Krellian space. His crew worked quietly around him, preparing weapon systems and running diagnostic checks on all equipment. The humans had been planning for this moment longer than anyone realized. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her position at the sensor station, "we are detecting increased Krellian patrol activity along their border." "They may be expecting some kind of response," Morrison nodded calmly. "Good, let them prepare. It will not matter." Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez approached the command chair. "All systems are operating at peak efficiency, sir. The main guns are charged and ready, defensive systems are online, and the crew is at full combat readiness." "Excellent work, Chief," Morrison replied. "How long until we reach the target system?" 18 hours at current speed, sir." Morrison turned to study the tactical display one more time. The Krellian military had built their reputation on overwhelming firepower and brutal tactics. They had never faced an enemy that could match their technology or exceed their determination. That was about to change. Back on Bloodstone Station, General Thrachter continued to review intelligence reports. The humans seemed to be moving ships toward the conflict zone, but the exact numbers and capabilities remained unclear. It did not matter. The Krellian Empire had crushed every enemy it had ever faced, and these soft mammals would be no different. The general had no way of knowing that his assumptions were about to be tested by a military force that had been hidden from the galaxy for decades. The humans had allowed others to underestimate them while secretly developing weapons and tactics that would redefine the nature of space warfare. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The edge of the Krellian system erupted in a brilliant flash of light as the USS Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace. The massive human battleship appeared like a silver ghost against the darkness of space, its kilometer-long hull gleaming under the light of twin suns. The ship was beautiful in a deadly way, with smooth curves that concealed incredible power beneath its elegant surface. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Commander Jake Morrison stood calmly at his command station. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display showing the layout of the enemy system. Dozens of red dots marked Krellian ships and installations, while the single blue dot representing his ship moved steadily toward the heart of enemy territory. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her sensor station, "we are detecting massive energy signatures from the Krellian fleet. They have at least 30 combat vessels arranged in defensive formations around their main base." Morrison nodded without showing any emotion. "Excellent. That means they are all in one place." The appearance of the human battleship sent shockwaves through the Krellian monitoring stations. Alarm bells rang throughout Bloodstone Station as sensor operators tried to understand what they were seeing. The energy signature from the approaching vessel was unlike anything in their databases. General Thrachter stormed onto the command deck, his massive form radiating anger and confusion. "What is that thing?" he demanded, staring at the tactical display showing the approaching human ship. "Unknown vessel, sir," replied the tactical officer. It appeared without warning at the systems edge. The energy readings are off the charts, but it is definitely of human origin. Captain Zorkith joined the general at the command console. "Sir, the ship is larger than anything we have seen from the humans before. It appears to be some kind of battleship, but the design is completely different from their known vessels." Thrachter studied the readings carefully. The human ship was massive, but the Krellian fleet had faced large vessels before. Size meant nothing without proper weapons and armor. Send a squadron of fighters to intercept. "I want that ship destroyed before it can get any closer." "Yes, sir," Zorkith replied, turning to relay the orders. "Fighter Squadron Alpha, launch immediately. Target the human vessel and destroy it." 12 Krellian fighters launched from the main docking bay of Bloodstone Station. Each ship was a sleek predator designed for speed and destruction. The pilots were veterans of countless battles, confident in their abilities and eager to add another human kill to their record-stout squadron. Leader Vakther led the formation toward the approaching battleship. His fighter was armed with plasma cannons. and guided missiles, more than enough firepower to cripple most enemy vessels. All units maintain formation. We will show these mammals what happens when they enter Krellian space. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the approaching fighters appeared. As small red dots on the tactical display, Commander Morrison watched them approach with the same calm expression he had worn since the mission began. Lieutenant Rodriguez, open a channel to the Krellian fleet. Channel open, sir, Amy replied from her communications console. Morrison stepped forward, his voice carrying across space to every Krellian ship in the system. This is Commander Morrison of the USS Vengeance. You have attacked and destroyed an unarmed civilian vessel belonging to the human colony fleet. Surrender. Those responsible for this war crime or face the consequences. The response came immediately from General Freichter himself. Human Commander, you are trespassing in Krellian space with a single ship against our entire fleet. Leave now or be destroyed like the cowards on your colony ship. Morrison's expression hardened slightly. I gave you a chance to surrender. You have chosen to fight instead? The Krellian fighters reached attack range and opened fire simultaneously. 12 streams of plasma energy and dozens of missiles streaked toward the Vengeance, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The pilots expected to see the human ship explode in a brilliant fireball. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma bolts and missiles struck an invisible barrier around the human battleship and simply disappeared. The energy weapons were absorbed without creating even a flicker of light, while the missiles were destroyed by some unseen force before they could detonate. What just happened? Squadron Leader Vacther shouted into his communication system. All weapons hit the target, but there was no damage. The Krellian fighters circled the Vengeance, firing repeatedly with the same result. Every shot was absorbed by the invisible shield system, while the human ship continued its steady advance without slowing down or changing course. On Bloodstone Station, General Freichter watched the battle with growing disbelief. How is that possible? No shield system in the galaxy can absorb that much firepower without showing any strain. Sir, reported the tactical officer, the human ship is not even returning fire. They are just absorbing our attacks and continuing to advance. Commander Morrison watched the enemy fighters circling his ship like angry insects. Chief Torres, activate point defense systems. Remove those fighters from my path. Chief Tactical Officer Rachel Torres had been waiting for this moment. Her hands moved across the weapons control console with practiced precision. Point defense systems online, sir. Targeting enemy fighters now. What happened next changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about human military technology. The Vengeance's hull erupted with streams of coherent energy that moved faster than the eye could follow. Each beam struck a Krellian fighter with surgical precision, hitting critical systems and causing instant destruction. The 12 enemy fighters were destroyed in less than 3 seconds. There were no explosions, no dramatic fireballs, just complete and instant vaporization. The weapons were so precise and powerful that they left nothing behind but empty space where the fighters had been. All enemy fighters destroyed, sir, Torres reported calmly. No damage to our systems. The silence that followed was deafening. On every Krellian ship in the system, crews stared at their senses in disbelief. 12 veteran pilots had been eliminated so quickly that their destruction barely registered on the monitoring systems. Squadron Leader Vacther's final transmission echoed through the Krellian communication network. Impossible weapons. They are not. The message cut off abruptly as his fighter was reduced to atoms. General Freichter felt something he had not experienced in decades of warfare. Fear. The human ship had just demonstrated defensive and offensive capabilities that defied every known law of physics. The shields were impenetrable, and the weapons were devastatingly effective. Sir, whispered Captain Zorkith, what are your orders? Freichter stared at the tactical display showing the human battleship continuing its steady approach. The USS Vengeance moved through space like a force of nature, unstoppable and deadly. For the first time in his military career, the general began to doubt the outcome of a battle. Recall all ships to defensive positions around the station. he ordered. Prepare for full combat engagement. The Krellian fleet began to move, 30 warships forming a protective barrier around Bloodstone Station. Each vessel was armed with the most advanced weapons the Empire could produce, but their crews had just witnessed the destruction of 12 fighters in a matter of seconds, Commander. Morrison watched the enemy fleet arrange itself for battle. Chief Mendez, bring all weapon systems online. It is time to show the galaxy what happens when you attack human civilians. The USS Vengeance continued its approach, and the galaxy was about to witness the true power of human military engineering. The 30 Krellian warships formed a massive wall of metal and weapons around Bloodstone Station. Each vessel was a testament to generations of military engineering built for one purpose: destruction. The flagship Eternal Domination held the center position, its massive hull bristling with enough firepower to level a city. General Thrachter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the single human battleship approach through the defensive perimeter. His yellow eyes burned with a mixture of rage and uncertainty. No enemy had ever penetrated this far into Krellian space, and the destruction of the fighter squadron still haunted his thoughts. "All ships report ready for combat, sir," announced Captain Zorkith from the tactical station. "Every weapon system is charged and targeting the human vessel. We have enough firepower concentrated here to destroy a small fleet." Thrachter nodded grimly. "Good. When that ship enters our weapons range, we will unleash everything at once. No enemy can survive." The combined firepower of 30 warships, regardless of their shield technology. The USS Vengeance continued its steady approach, showing no signs of slowing or changing course. Commander Morrison stood calmly on his bridge, studying the enemy formation with professional interest. The Krellians had arranged their ships in overlapping fields of fire, a textbook defensive strategy that would normally be very effective. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, "we are entering the outer edge of their weapons range. All enemy ships are powering up their main guns." Morrison turned to Chief Tactical Officer Rachel Torres. "Are our systems ready for combat?" "All weapons charged and ready, sir," Torres replied. "Defensive systems are operating at maximum efficiency. Shield generators are stable and showing no strain from the previous engagement." Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez approached the command station. "Sir, the main reactor is operating perfectly. We have more than enough power for extended combat operations." Morrison nodded and activated the ship's communication system. "Attention. Krellian Fleet, this is your final warning. Surrender those responsible for the attack on the USS Liberty or face complete destruction." General Thrachter response echoed across the communication channels. "Human fool, you face the might of the Krellian Empire. Prepare to join your dead colonists in whatever afterlife your species believes in." The general raised his clawed hand and brought it down sharply. "All ships, open fire. Destroy that vessel." The space around Bloodstone Station erupted in a display of devastating firepower. 30 warships unleashed their weapons simultaneously, creating a storm of energy that lit up the darkness like a newborn star. Plasma torpedoes, ion cannons, fusion missiles, and gravitic disruptors all streaked toward the USS Vengeance in a concentrated barrage. The combined attack represented enough destructive power to crack the crust of a planet. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly, leaving nothing but scattered atoms drifting in space. The Krellian crews watched their sensors, expecting to see the human battleship disappear in a brilliant explosion. Instead, the impossible happened again. The massive energy barrage struck the Vengeance's shields and was absorbed without creating even a flicker of disturbance. The ship continued its approach as if nothing had happened, its silver hull gleaming serenely in the light of the twin suns. "Impossible," whispered Captain Zorkith, staring at his tactical display. "The sensors show direct hits with maximum firepower, but the target is completely undamaged." General Thrachter felt his confidence crumbling like sand. "Continue firing. No shield can absorb that much energy indefinitely." The Krellian fleet maintained their barrage, pouring everything they had into the attack. Wave after wave of weapons fire struck the human ship with no visible effect. The USS Vengeance absorbed the punishment like an immovable mountain. Never slowing its advance. Commander Morrison watched the enemy attacks with clinical detachment. "Impressive firepower," he commented to his bridge crew. "Their weapons technology is more advanced than our intelligence reports suggested." "Sir," said Torres, "should we return fire?" "Not yet," Morrison replied. "Let them exhaust their ammunition first. I want them to understand the futility of their situation before we respond." The one-sided battle continued for 20 minutes. The Krellian ships fired until their weapon systems began to overheat and their ammunition supplies ran dangerously low. Still, the human battleship showed no signs of damage or strain. "Sir," reported the weapons officer on the Eternal Domination, "we are down to 30% ammunition. Many ships are reporting overheated weapon systems." General Thrachter stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His entire fleet had unleashed everything they had, and the enemy ship was completely unharmed. The human vessel had absorbed enough firepower to destroy 100 normal warships. "Sir," whispered Captain Zorkith, "what are your orders?" Before Thrachter could respond, the USS Vengeance finally returned fire. The human battleship's main weapons came online, revealing technology that redefined the concept of destructive power. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the ship's hull, each one calculated with perfect precision by advanced targeting computers. The first Krellian ship to be targeted was the heavy cruiser Bone Crusher. The human weapon struck its forward section with surgical accuracy, punching through the armor like it was paper. The beam continued through the ship's interior, destroying critical systems and causing a chain reaction that tore the vessel apart from the inside. "Bone Crusher is gone," reported the tactical officer, his voice filled with shock. One shot completely destroyed a heavy cruiser. The USS Vengeance's weapon systems operated with methodical efficiency. Each shot was precisely aimed at critical systems, designed to disable or destroy enemy vessels with minimum energy expenditure. The human gunners worked with the calm professionalism of surgeons, dissecting the Krellian fleet with clinical precision. The destroyer Savage Fang was the next target. The human beam weapon struck its reactor core, causing a massive explosion that lit up the surrounding space. The blast was so powerful that it damaged 2 nearby ships, forcing them to retreat from the formation. 2 ships down, multiple others damaged, Torres reported calmly. All weapon systems operating within normal parameters. One by one, the Krellian warships fell to the Vengeance's superior firepower. The human weapons were so advanced that they could penetrate any known armor and destroy any target with a single well-placed shot. The proud fleet that had terrorized the sector for generations was being systematically dismantled. Captain Zorkith, the officer who had led the attack on the USS Liberty, attempted a desperate maneuver. His ship, the Blood Talon, broke from formation and charged directly at the human battleship. "If I can ram them, maybe I can take them down with me," he shouted into his communication system. The USS Vengeance's point defense systems tracked the approaching cruiser with mechanical precision. Multiple energy beams struck the Blood Talon simultaneously, reducing it to atoms before it could close the distance. Captain Zorkith's final scream was cut short as his ship simply ceased to exist. "Justice for the Liberty," Commander Morrison said quietly. Watching the debris field where the enemy ship had been, General Thrachter watched his fleet being destroyed with growing horror. 20 ships were gone, their crews vaporized by weapons that operated beyond his understanding. The remaining vessels were either damaged or retreating, their commanders finally understanding the hopelessness of their situation. "Sir," pleaded his communication officer, "multiple ships are requesting permission to retreat." Thrachter stared at the human battleship, which continued its methodical destruction of his forces. The USS Vengeance moved through the battlefield, like death itself, unstoppable and implacable. For the first time in his long military career, the general realized he was facing an enemy he could not defeat. The debris field around Bloodstone Station told the story of complete destruction. Twisted metal and scattered components drifted through space where the mighty Krellian fleet had once stood proud and defiant. 28 warships had been reduced to nothing more than glowing wreckage, their crews silenced forever by the superior firepower of a single human battleship. General Thrachter stood alone on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Domination. His massive reptilian form trembled with a mixture of rage and fear as he watched the USS Vengeance approach his position. The human ship moved through the debris field like a silver ghost, its weapons still glowing with deadly energy. "Sir," whispered his communication officer, "the remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat. The crews are terrified and many are refusing to continue fighting." Thrachter looked at his tactical display and saw only 2 ships remaining operational beside his flagship. The rest of his proud fleet had been systematically destroyed by weapons that defied everything he understood about space warfare. The humans had revealed technology that made Krellian military power look primitive by comparison. The USS Vengeance stopped just outside the weapons range of Bloodstone Station. Commander Morrison stood on his bridge, studying the massive space fortress that served as the heart of Krellian power in the sector. The station was heavily armed and shielded, designed to withstand attacks from entire fleets. "Sir," reported Chief Tactical Officer Rachel Torres, "the station has multiple defensive systems and enough firepower to threaten even our shields if we get too close." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "Open a channel to the station. It is time to end this." Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez activated the communication system. "Channel open, sir." Morrison's voice carried across space to every Krellian facility in the system. "General Thrachter, your fleet is destroyed. Your ships are nothing but debris floating in space. I am giving you one final chance to surrender and face justice for your crimes against innocent civilians." The response came immediately from the Krellian general. "Human commander, you may have superior weapons, but I will never surrender to inferior mammals. This station can withstand anything you can throw at it." Morrison's expression hardened. "Then you have chosen your fate." The USS Vengeance's main guns began to charge with energy that made the space around the ship shimmer like heat waves. The weapon systems that had easily destroyed an entire fleet now focused their attention on the massive space station. The power readings were so intense that they overloaded several monitoring systems on nearby planets. "Sir," said Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez, "the main cannon is at full charge. We have enough power to punch through any known defensive system." Morrison gave the order with quiet finality. "Fire." The space around Bloodstone Station exploded in brilliant light as the USS Vengeance unleashed its most powerful weapon. The energy beam that struck the station was so intense that it could be seen from planets several light-years away. The massive fortress, which had stood unconquered for 3 centuries, was pierced through its center like an arrow through paper. The station's reactor core was breached instantly, causing a chain reaction that tore the entire structure apart from the inside. General Thracher's final roar of defiance was lost in the explosion that consumed everything he had built during his long military career. "Target destroyed, sir," Torres reported calmly. "Bloodstone Station is completely gone." The few remaining Krellian ships fled the system at maximum speed, their crews broadcasting emergency messages throughout the galaxy. The impossible had happened. A single human vessel had destroyed the most powerful military force in the sector, including the legendary Bloodstone Station. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Emergency broadcasts carried the story to every civilized world, and the reaction was immediate and profound. The Galactic Council chambers erupted in chaos as species. Representatives struggled to comprehend what they were hearing. Ambassador Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire stood before the council with a datapad containing the battle recordings. His forearms shook as he activated the holographic display, showing the complete destruction of the Krellian fleet by a single human warship. "Honored council members," Vexstar began, his voice filled with awe and fear, "we have greatly underestimated the human species. The recordings you are about to see will change everything we thought we knew about their military capabilities." The council watched in stunned silence as the USS Vengeance systematically destroyed ship after ship with weapons that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The human battleship absorbed the combined firepower of 30 warships without taking any damage, then responded with precision strikes that eliminated each target with a single shot. Chancellor Blue Ridge of the Aquarians floated in his water-filled pod, his gill slits fluttering rapidly with stress. This is impossible. No single ship should be able to withstand that much firepower and still function normally. Known as clarity of the crystalline shardfolk chimed in harmonic tones of distress. The humans have been hiding their true technological capabilities for decades. While we debated their weakness, they were developing weapons that make our finest ships look like toys. Admiral Kethmore of the Vorthan Defense Fleet studied the tactical data with growing alarm. Every military assessment we have made about human capabilities is worthless. If one ship can do this, what could their entire fleet accomplish? The insectoid hive mind representatives finally broke their long silence. Their collective consciousness had reached a disturbing conclusion. The humans have been deliberately allowing us to underestimate them. This was not a desperate revenge mission, but a calculated demonstration of power. High Counselor Mordith, the ancient leader of the eternal race, leaned forward in his chair. The question we must ask ourselves is simple. What do the humans want from us now that they have revealed their true strength? The answer came in the form of a message from Earth Command. Fleet Admiral Patricia Kane appeared on the Council's main view screen, her weathered face stern but not hostile. Behind her stood Commander Morrison, newly returned from his mission. Aboard the USS Vengeance. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, Kane began, humanity has no desire for conquest or domination. We seek only to live in peace and explore the galaxy alongside other civilized species. However, we will no longer tolerate attacks on our civilians or threats to our colonies. The Admiral paused to let her words sink in before continuing. The destruction of the Krellian fleet was not an act of aggression, but a response to unprovoked murder. Any species that threatens human lives will face the same fate that befell General Thrachter and his forces. Across the galaxy, military commanders frantically updated their tactical databases. Human vessels were reclassified from minimal threat to extreme danger, avoid direct confrontation. Trade agreements were hastily renegotiated in humanity's favor, and territorial disputes involving human colonies were quietly resolved. The USS Vengeance had become a symbol of human resolve, and its name was whispered with respect and fear throughout civilized space. The age of underestimating humanity had ended in the debris field around Bloodstone Station on distant worlds. Alien children learned a new phrase that their parents repeated whenever human ships appeared on long-range sensors. The words carried a warning that echoed through military academies and command centers across the galaxy. Brace yourself. Human battleship approaching. The galaxy had learned that humanity's patience had limits, and those limits were enforced by weapons that redefined the nature of power in space. The humans had finally taken their place among the great civilizations, not through conquest, but through the absolute demonstration that their people would never again be victims of unprovoked aggression. Commander Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance as it returned to Earth, knowing that the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The mission had been successful, but it had also changed everything. The age of human weakness was over, and a new era of respect through strength had begun.